Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Saturday morning conversation with me, Nick, and Masharia. Masharia is developing a global health crypto project, and we're here to continue our discussion of that. Last week, we talked kind of about the intersection of crypto economics a little bit, as well as specifics with his UBRICA project. And its various aspects. I think this week we're going to kind of dig deeper into crypto economics itself. And before we jump into that topic, Masharia, would you like to introduce yourself this morning?
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for that. Thank you so much for having us this morning and hosting this meeting. And today, well, I just need to introduce myself. I trained in medicine, and I'm also interested in cryptocurrency and the intersection between the cryptocurrency or the blockchain itself and health production, particularly in Africa. And I believe that that intersection between blockchain and medicine or healthcare can produce global health. Yes, that's a brief introduction of myself.
That's perfect. Thank you. And I share your enthusiasm for blockchain. You know, I'm not as technically engaged with blockchain as I believe you are, which makes it even more exciting for me to talk to you. I think let's jump right in for this morning, and I'm going to give you kind of a blank canvas here. Go ahead and define crypto economics, just whether you want to interpret that generally or whether you want to interpret that as it relates specific to your UBRICA project. That's your choice. Just go ahead and run with it.
Crypto economics. Thank you so much, Nick. Crypto economics is a term that has appeared since maybe about 2012 when the cryptocurrency came into the market. Before that, we had fiat currency economics, the economics of the fiat money. And this is the economics of cryptocurrency. And you know that cryptocurrency is money created not with fiat, but by computer programs. And it comes, is trustless money. Yeah. And so building crypto economics building an economics on that trustless framework is very exciting because we can now manage to give rewards of excellence of work produced by, you know, directly without trust. What you call trustees, like you used to have middlemen in the economic system who were the banks and other middle organizations that stood between the users and the providers. Now the users and the providers are directly connected and they can actually validate each other directly. And so how do you build an economics around that? And so we are able now to craft an economics for rewarding excellence in service excellence, service quality excellence with the blockchain directly. And we're going to discuss more what is service quality excellence or in all fields, and particularly what we're focusing in health. Service quality excellence is very, very important in healthcare because where there's no quality, people die. The healthcare system, if it's poor quality, can become the producer of disease, disability, and death for a lot of people, increasing mortality. And the blockchain itself and the crypto economics built on the blockchain is able to overcome that problem because it's able to reward service quality excellence through and through without middlemen, without third parties. Yeah.
Can I offer a quick kind of, I don't know if it would be called a metaphor or a simile. It's one of those. I haven't completely formulated in my mind yet, but let me offer something and you can tell me if this sounds correct to you to understand peer-to-peer as you're kind of describing it there, cutting out the middleman with crypto economics. When we talk about space, I don't know if you read much about space and the universe, but if we're talking about traveling from, say, Earth to another galaxy, that space, that takes an extraordinarily long amount of time. So theoretical physicists talk about bending space-time so that one location can be right next to another, and you're almost bending the fabric of space-time, and you loop right through it from point A to point B. We're kind of doing the same thing with blockchain, right? We're cutting, the middleman is that space between our galaxies, and we're kind of bending it, and now money is traveling directly from me directly to you through almost a technical wormhole.
Yeah, it's peer-to-peer, exactly. Excellent metaphor. It's peer-to-peer, direct customer to consumer. I mean, provider to consumer, That's peer-to-peer. Or when I'm buying some, when you talk about economics, the whole theory of economics is based on exchange of goods, exchange of value, that I give something to you of value, and then you give me something back to register that value. And what we have in the present economic system, when I give you something of value, when I want to pay for that value, I have to go through another third party. Either it's a bank or a credit card system, or it's a trustee. We call them middlemen. That system of transactions that goes through middlemen, those middlemen collect rent. They collect rent. Yeah, they're not collecting anything, they're just collecting rent for just being there. And so blockchain bypasses all that. In some instances, you can have 7 middle people between one transaction and the next. For example, when people are sending money to different countries, which is known as remittances, one has to go to the bank and deposit the money to the bank, and write a wire transfer instruction. And when you give that wire transfer instruction, they call it advisory. Then another bank takes that, maybe somewhere in New York City. If you're in the United States, then that bank sends a message to the Bank of International Transactions in London. And then that Bank of International Transaction advises the bank in Africa, the central bank in Africa, to look at that account, and then the commercial bank, and then eventually you. So you have seen there's about 5 middle people in that process. Each one of them is collecting some money. So for the blockchain money, there is no people in the middle. It's just one the user or the buyer sends the money, receives the money directly from the seller, and that is what peer-to-peer is all about.
When we talk about, sorry to interrupt you, when we talk about trustless, you're saying that the blockchain is trustless. That means these existing systems, the contemporary systems before blockchain, where we are trusting multiple intermediaries to handle our money as it goes from point A to point B, we do need to trust those people. We don't know who they are, they're abstract, but we're putting trust in a system to move money around the world. And it seems pretty amazing that people and organizations have come together to allow us to move money around the world with such a complex system that we have today. So that almost seems like something we should say, wow, organizations have really done a lot for the world, but why are these organizations not helpful? Say particularly for Africa. I know we've talked about how it's cut out of the economic system, like Visa, MasterCard aren't available over there, and there's some of the intermediaries. I think this goes back to something we've said before, so if it does, feel free to move on quickly, but your thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is that those organizations are led by people, and those people have got prejudice, prejudices, prejudgment. They can actually decide, we do not trust these people. And so they are going to exclude them from the market. So because of reliance on that trust-based system, we have created a third world, where the third world people don't have access to the finance system. And that is the biggest problem with this trust network, because it is governed by people. People make decisions. You have heard that there's some people group together, the group of 7 richest nations called G7 or G8.
Yeah.
If you're not a member of that, you're not in the trust network. That's it. And then you're in the third world. And so
I've always heard third world talked about in terms of quality of living, perhaps not much trust in the public institutions of government, but I've never heard someone categorize the third world as a place that is strictly unbanked or excluded from the financial system. Do you think that every country that we would think of as being in the third world would categorically be excluded from the global financial system?
Yeah, at the bottom of it, what you call the ground state, the baseline of third world term is exclusion from the finance market. That's it. All the other things are just politics, things to talk about. But the baseline of it is that these people cannot be trusted to do financial transactions, and so they are going to be in the finance system. That's it.
Cannot be trusted. I think it's absolutely mind-boggling that we, when I say we, I mean humankind, distrust a vast swath of individuals just because of their geographic location and history.
Well,
but
what they do, they characterize such people as high-risk populations.
Yeah.
High risk. When they're high risk, then you see money is about risk and time. And if the finance system is concerned about risk, then it's not going to include the high risk population into the system.
Now, this high risk population is exactly the population that you're seeking to service with your blockchain UBRICA project. So you're going to try and bank people who have been unbanked because they're typically seen as high risk. Why is their high risk not a problem for you and blockchain?
Those people are by no means high risk. They're just human beings. They are by no means any high risk. But you see, if we create a phenomenon and we just characterize people as high risk, that is what we do. But that's just a thing we do. It's not real. And yeah, so we have to come from that delusion of high risk people to the reality that human beings are the same and they have equal potential everywhere in the world. That is equivalent potential of production, not high risk.
Okay. Well, now for the blockchain, crypto economics, we've distinguished crypto as being a peer-to-peer system as opposed to the existing system that has many middlemen. Are there any other ways that we can differentiate the blockchain from the contemporary financial system in relation to our topic here of crypto economics, or is that pretty much the most salient point?
It's the most salient point, but there are maybe 5 distinct ways. Number one is, the second point is, it is uncensored. So you don't get all this censorship by individual human beings, because it is computer program or smart contract that is doing the work. So the computer program does not censor people unless we program it to censor people. And so the next one is boundaryless. It does not consider boundary. For example, if you are in Uganda, you can buy things in Kenya, and we are in the same cyberspace, because cyberspace is boundaryless. And then it doesn't require permission, so it's permissionless. It doesn't require permission from another individual in order for you to finish the transaction, because the permission is built into the smart contract, which we spoke about before as the escrow system. You see, the escrow before was based on human beings, being escrow or trustees of transactions, and then they can complete the transaction when they're happy that the transaction is done. Instead of waiting for human beings to say that I'm happy, this transaction is good, then we give that job to the smart contract. So the smart contract, so long as everything is fulfilled, then the smart contracts complete the transactions, and everything is settled for both the buyer and the seller. Yeah, those are you could say 5 areas of the blockchain that are quite different from the traditional financial system that rely on human beings.
Okay, perfect. May I attempt real quick just to put the idea of escrow? I know it's not a super complex idea, but I want to try and put that into layman's terms. But I think it's cool to think about it in the realm of AI too. Because we talk a lot, well, you and I perhaps don't talk much in these conversations, but there's a lot of people in the world talking about how increased automation and artificial intelligence is going to replace jobs for low-skilled workers. But even in this case, the blockchain will be replacing jobs for high-skilled workers who work in the finance industry who manage escrow accounts. And essentially that is a middleman job where you hold the funds and don't release them until it's approved by both parties on either side of the transaction. So that smart contract is an AI replacement for a bank managing funds.
I think so. Yeah, it is. It's some sort of artificial intelligence for those middle people who serve as escrows, many of them are legal organizations, legal companies, built by lawyers. Like if, say, for example, if you're buying a house, you put your money and the title deeds out in an escrow company, which is an escrow account managed by lawyers, so they can make sure that all the legalities of the transactions are fulfilled before they actually release the items on both sides, whether it's cash or the real estate product itself. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So some of those might find themselves without work to do. But I think they are not going to find themselves without work to do. What they're going to do is learn more to work with the blockchain and maybe, to learn more with blockchain, even probably create escrow systems on the software themselves, because they actually know how escrow works, and they can actually create software to manage those escrows instead of them managing them as human beings. So it's not that the jobs are getting taken away by AI. It is a new type of jobs are coming up, and as new type of people also coming up. Children are born every day, almost every minute. So those children are going to grow up in a new system, and in a new system, they are going to get equipped with knowledge to work with that present system. You see, we cannot hold back on old stuff just to safeguard jobs, because the new people may not even know what the old people used to do. It's just a evolution of we call it economic evolution.
And this is something that has happened throughout all of history. This isn't a new thing to the 21st century. It's the modern form of it because of the technology that we're experiencing today. It allows for this type of rapid change, but change has happened forever. So you'd say people shouldn't generally be afraid of change in society and the type of occupations that sustain them, right?
Absolutely. People must never be afraid of change, because change has to happen whether we like it or not. That is the point. Change has to happen. For example, when the motor vehicle was invented in the 1800s, people who owned horses were very concerned that the new motor vehicle is going to take away their business. Horse and buggy in the cities. And they developed a massive campaign to destroy the idea of motor vehicles transporting people. You see, Ford himself, Henry Ford, faced a huge opposition. And today you cannot convince people to be riding horses to city. Like, you cannot take a horse to Boston. Because that thing is forgotten. And there was such a huge campaign. And of course, it did not destroy jobs. They created more jobs. Horse owners could employ only a handful of people. Now, Ford Motor Vehicle Manufacturing Company, or Toyota, employs hundreds of thousands of people. So really, when technology comes in, actually broadens the economic opportunities for people rather than shrinking the economic opportunity. Only those people, the incumbent in that position in that time, only those people are concerned that their jobs are going to be taken away. But the new people who come, because people are new every day, new people are born every day, and they grow up, start working, getting the workforce on a daily basis. They are not worried that the jobs are going to decrease. In fact, they actually innovate and discover how to fit in the new economic environment.
Now, when we look to the future, and if the future is unknown, there's a couple of ways to go about that. There's a way where we look to the past and we use what we know to try and envision a future that we can recognize. The other way, in my mind, is to imagine a future that you would like to see. And I personally think that imagining a future is a lot more valuable than trying to construct a mental picture of a future based upon an experienced past. Can you talk a little bit about, for me, just if you agree that you think imagination is a powerful tool for preparing oneself for an unknown future, and then move into how you used imagination to envision how the UBRICOIN, how its particular crypto economics are going to work? Because I imagine there's so many cryptos out there. There's Ethereum, there's Bitcoin, there's Solana, and there's UBRICOIN, and there's so many others.
Yeah.
They all don't operate exactly the same. So it needs some sort of imagination to customize it. So imagination for perceiving the world, and then imagination for creating the UBRICA project and its crypto economics.
Yes, you're right. That's a great question. Imagination is much more powerful than knowledge. You see that? That's what I think Lee Iacocca at Ford Motor Company said. Imagination is more powerful. I think that was Einstein himself. Imagination is more powerful than knowledge. And the second thing is this: that experience is not the greatest teacher. You know, we are told in school that experience is the greatest teacher. That is not true, because you experience things that have happened in the past. But the future relies much on nothing that we have seen in the past. And the future is very different. It relies on our imagination, and that requires the force of will. How do we bring the future that we really want to the present? That idea is known as presencing, bringing the future that we really want to the present. And the future that we really want, I really see, and we bring it to the present, is a future where everybody on this planet have access to good quality health care, good quality health care, and the future where that healthcare of good quality is accessible to everyone in the world, and the future where that good quality of healthcare is actually low cost, it's affordable. So it's accessible, it's high quality, and it's affordable. And that is quite possible today. When you talk about other blockchain projects like Ethereum, like Solana, and all the other coins, there may be about 3,000 coins in the market, or cryptocurrencies in the market today, or blockchain projects. They are not competing with each other, because the things to do in this planet, the things that we need to accomplish in this planet, are as many as there can be human beings. And so the project, the Global Health Project itself, also has so many other facets to it that could also be commercialized using the blockchain. And so Ethereum is focusing on one. Ethereum build the infrastructure. Then we build UBRICOIN on the Ethereum network. You see, Ethereum has its own job, which is building the infrastructure. And then we build UBRICOIN on Ethereum network. And then Solana has built another infrastructure addressing a different problem. And Solana is now interoperable with Ethereum, because these blockchain masters are making the blockchain as interoperable as possible. And so we have Binance. Binance also is becoming interoperable with Ethereum, such Ethereum-based tokens can now be operated on the Binance by wrapping them, when you wrap them, and then become interoperable. And so the idea now is to coalesce all these blockchain projects to become one interoperable platform. It's not going to be one, but everyone can come. But you can actually transact Ethereum-based tokens on Binance, or on Solana, or on Cardano, or and like that. So we manage to give people the freedom or the independence to operate in one large space in the cyberspace.
Can I jump in really quick, just with a couple clarifying questions on all that?
Yeah.
If we have, say, Solana, Ethereum, Binance, and I don't know the specifics really too much about Binance, or I know a little bit about Solana, but let's say that these are all layer 1 projects. I know there's layer 1, there's layer 2, and the way I'm thinking about these layers is, I think of layer 1 as your search engine, almost like, say, Google, Yahoo. You have these search engines where we're browsing the internet, and then our layer 2 projects would be like your websites visited with those different browsers. So they're built on top of them, and the only difference now is that some company doesn't control these, and they're decentralized. And they have a currency built into each individual one, and all of those currencies are interoperable. Does that sound correct? Is kind of what you just described?
Yeah, precisely. Layer 2 is the one that is now interoperable, because layer 1 is the base. So, for example, Ethereum base itself, like now we have Ethereum is coming on a point proof proof of stake system, which is going to be on Bitcoin chain. Now the Bitcoin chain is layer 1, that is the baseline of Ethereum. And then the transactions that happen on the Bitcoin chain, say on top. So the transactions which are not going to be the decentralized application, the dApps, are going to be on layer 2. And so those layer 2, that's what we are saying, that the layer 2 the applications can now manage to jump into, say, if it's on Ethereum, it can manage to jump into Binance. It can manage to jump on Binance, and then you can do transactions on Binance by wrapping them. Yeah.
And go ahead. Sorry, finish.
What wrapping means is that it's just a smart code that makes the application accessible in Binance. You know, this just technical language called wrapping. You give it a shortcut smart code that makes that coin now operable where in Binance if it is on Ethereum.
And I'd imagine in an ideal world, once the blockchain and all these crypto projects become more interoperable, and we want everything to be as user-friendly as possible, wrapping is probably something that'll just happen in the background. We won't even have to think about it. Do you agree that that's probably likely?
Yeah, it's actually automated. It just happens. For example, if I have UBRICOIN and I want to send them to Binance, the Binance just wraps them and puts them, they're called wrapped UBNs. Just like you can have wrapped Bitcoin. You see, Bitcoin itself is on a different platform, the Bitcoin protocol itself. And so for you to operate Bitcoin on Binance, you have to wrap the Bitcoins. It's called wrap, but you really don't notice it as a consumer. Those are technical details that are only good for the techies who really want to know what's happening. Yeah, but usually when the coins are wrapped, they come on into your wallet. They show as W, like WBTC. That's wrapped Bitcoin. Ethereum.
Cool. My mind is moving to another topic that I feel like is kind of a sharp departure from our current discussion. So let me propose a couple of thoughts, and you can let me know how you're feeling about what I'm saying. In our current system, we have third-party industries, but let's focus on our intermediaries. Let's focus on the government, and the government will incentivize and decentivize certain activities within a country or globally by taxing or providing credits, that kind of thing. If we're implementing a project, like a blockchain project, and we also have goals for that project that are affected by humans and the human interaction with the blockchain, we need to manage human behavior and incentivize and decentivize certain human behaviors for the individual project. So that is allowing the will of the blockchain project developer to be imposed upon. Probably sounds a little bit more forceful, but you can soften that up. Imposed upon the people using the project. What are your thoughts about that right there?
Yes, you can say will of the blockchain developer to be imposed upon the users of it. Yeah, it is. It may look like that, but eventually the the blockchain gives people a lot of power to control the chain itself. You know, what we call governance. That's called crypto governance system. And this crypto governance is done by voting system, that people can vote for specific ideas. That is the initial idea that Vitalik Buterin developed in what he called the decentralized autonomous organization. Instead of having these companies where you have members of the board or the shareholders making voting or making decisions, then the decisions can be delegated to the blockchain itself, where people actually vote using the tokens they're holding, token voting. And in token voting, they make decisions. And we have seen that evolving a lot over the past few years, that individuals now are actually able to make voting decisions on what they want their currency to do.
Mhm.
So if a developer proposes something and people don't like it, they're not going to vote for it, or they're going to vote it, they're going to downvote it. If it's downvoted, the program is not going to implement it. You see, this now, you could say it facilitates or makes easier the work of the political governing system, that the political enterprise does not have to worry about people being exploited, because even the governance itself can be automated in that sense. And all we have to do is, members of Congress or the Senate or the government, or maybe the police division, is to have those members holding those coins accepted the ideas that the developers are saying. If they don't accept, if the members, the holders do not accept it, or the ecosystem does not accept it, then the ideas are downvoted and they are never executed. So it's really very powerful that it's not actually possible to impose the will of the blockchain developer, because if he has very strong will about himself, he's going to get outvoted by the people who are in the ecosystem itself.
So the will of the developer really it's almost like the founding fathers of the US, or any place that sets up a constitution. Any democratic society that implements a constitution has the rules by which its society will function. And if it's set up as a democracy, those rules can be modified over time, such as like an amendment to that constitution. And it's the same deal with the blockchain.
Yeah, and that's the spirit of the decentralized autonomous organization. Decentralized autonomy. Yeah, you can get the idea of governance being decentralized and being given direct access to the people. The actual users have active say. They have an active vote in whatever is happening in the projects themselves. Yeah.
It sounds like blockchain, therefore, would be a very democratic based technology. How do you sell this in an autocratic area of the world? Do you?
Yes. You see that autocracy, or maybe you could say something. Well, I'm forgetting the word, but monopolies or autocracies are developed by individuals. This is just one person imposing his will on everybody, or maybe one institution imposing its will on everyone. It is now possible to bypass that using the blockchain, because it doesn't mean that the people who are the consumers of that in that ecosystem are actually very happy with the way they are being led. The blockchain just liberates them from that type of type of authoritarianism, somebody taking over the control of everyone else and imposing his will on everyone else. And that is likely to come to an end with the blockchain.
So
in any country.
So like how the person who sells horses was unjustifiably afraid of the car, the autocrat today is unjustifiably afraid of the blockchain. They will just be forgotten, you think?
Yes. And those autocrats are dictators. They dictate what is going to happen, and then they force the people to do it. If the people don't do it, they kill them. Now that's another thing. Is it likely to prevent genocide? Now those are very difficult questions, because somebody who is autocratic and is a dictator at the top, and if people are using blockchain in his country and then he does not want them to use, he might just decide to mobilize his own military to kill them. Wow. But those are very tough questions, which now I don't know how to answer them, because can the blockchain overcome that level of dictatorship? And I would say yes, the blockchain is actually able to overcome and overthrow dictators and autocrats.
We just don't know what will be experienced along the way. Change is disruptive. It's chaotic, and it's like everything explodes into the air and settles down into new elements.
But those are extreme cases. dictatorship, it's not in every country. So most countries actually, they're in the middle where people are just surviving. And they may be having some subtle level of dictatorship. And that certain level of dictatorship is totally manageable with the blockchain. But the very extreme cases where the dictator invokes genocide, that's killing millions of people at once, is really a hard thing to deal with. But I don't know what's going to happen. We are now in the 21st century, and I think we have seen that level of aggression is probably much less than it was in the 19th century and the centuries before, where rulers were killing hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, but it's still there. The danger is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was reading an article the other day about weapons of mass destruction, and ever since that they've come into existence, while they have the ability to completely destroy the entire planet, the amount of killing around the world on like an average basis has actually gone down. So, and any technology, no matter how disruptive or terrifying, can have good and bad impacts. But let's come back really quick to your particular project. So when I was reading your white paper for the UBRICOIN project for today's conversation, I reviewed a couple of things where you said, we will increase balances for people who do things good. We will decrease balances for people who do things poorly. And this is in relation to Brevis, which I think is 1 billion of a UBN coin. So this, I would say, sounds like your initial mission or your initial design. But the way that people are incentivized, rewarded, or penalized will change over time as the democratic process takes place in the UBRICOIN project. You can run with that.
Precisely. And for us, we focus on giving incentive to maybe 5 categories of people. And these are people who are based on best quality of knowledge production and knowledge implementation, and of course, commercialization. And they come from primary school teachers. If a school, a primary school is elementary school in the United States. A teacher is in class and teaches students very well. The teacher observes attendance to class, and the quality of teaching is good, and then gives good grades, and of course is able to help students translate that knowledge into practical uses, either at home or in the community. That teacher gets excellence reward points. And these excellence reward points will be coming from parents who are very, very satisfied with what the teacher is doing. So that those satisfaction points become cash. They can just, in the blockchain, they're translated into cash. And that now rewards the teacher. So teachers who are doing good work get rewarded for doing that good work, but in the blockchain, and which means they put more money in their wallet. So the balance in the wallet increases. That's what it means. Now, on the opposite side, the teacher who is doing bad stuff is known by the parents, and the parents are going to downgrade that teacher, and that reduces the balance of that teacher on the blockchain. See, that's the base. And then you can go to high school, is the same thing, even to universities. Now, universities is we want to program for those teachers, for the class attendance, for the quality of teaching, and even for enabling young people to publication of their work, original work, and translation of their work into ideas, into commercial products, into prototypes that can be translation of the ideas into prototypes that can actually be commercialized in the market. And they use the students themselves, the student community can reward those teachers by just hitting, recording their satisfaction on the blockchain, like we do likes on Facebook, and those likes translates into coins, which coins gets into the wallet of the teacher, and that actually rewards the teacher or the professor. And similarly, in healthcare system, you can reward service quality for the providers. Just like nowadays, when you go to a healthcare system, they send you a survey to ask you a question about your satisfaction. So they're actually measuring the satisfaction of the service that you received. Now on the blockchain, that satisfaction that you report to them, or whether it's the patient relationship, the patient-doctor relationship was good quality and all that, translates into cash, and that cash gets loaded in the pockets of or into the wallet of the provider. So the providers gets paid, and this means that the good providers who are doing good quality will see their balances increasing because the feedback they're getting from the consumers is actually positive. The consumers themselves also would get service, would get quality rewards, and their balances increased, which called loyalty points, by consuming things in a certain ecosystem, which is the UBRICA ecosystem. And the smart contract itself, because of, say, shopping on Sokojanja using UBRICOIN, you could get reward points of excellence. Those points also translate into cash, and of course increase the balances in the wallet. And yeah, and if somebody who's providing bad service, poor service delivery, and everything gets negative points, and those negative points can reduce the balance in the wallet. Yeah, so it's you could say it's a community-based governing system where people in the community actually acting together to govern the production of excellence among each other. It's peer-to-peer excellence production. Yeah.
Yeah, and while that number, I like to think of it this way almost, that number that is in a wallet that, increases or decreases based upon actions and contributions, that number, while it is currency, while it can be sent, received, exchanged for goods and services, while it's a currency, it's also, we can think of it as a social credit system almost for a person in society. Like it's not exactly, but if the number is higher, then we would assume that that person is making great contributions to society. If the number is fairly low, we would assume that person is not making very great contributions to society. And that number is also their ability to then go out and make further contributions or impact the world. So when people do things poorly, it decreases their number, which is also their currency, and decreases their ability to have an impact on the world, and vice versa. People who do great things, their number rises, their purchasing power rises, and they can have a greater impact on the world. So it's a self-regulating system, rewarding those who are advancing humanity and penalizing those who are not. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's not really not penalizing them, it's just not rewarding them for not doing good quality.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not penalized. And that this now brings a new level of awareness, because in this new awareness, you can know that other human beings are not appreciating your services, and that is why you're not increasing, your wallet balance is not increasing, or you're providing very high good quality, and that's why your wallet balance is increasing. Gotcha. And that's very, very powerful. And you see, it brings the entire economic enterprise into the human level, the human actions. We say human actions that increase value to other humans increase wallet balances, and human actions that do not increase do not get any increase of balances, and human values that reduce the value or the quality of life of another human being actually reduce the wallet balance. Yeah. And you see, that's now, you could say, large scale governance, which is now at a very high level. And I think the internet has enabled us to implement some of that, because say if you go shopping somewhere online and you buy something, say Amazon.com, Amazon allows you to rate the experience you buy. And so you gather information about the quality of the service you receive directly from the community. It's only that when you respond in Amazon.com, it does not translate into, token balances. Yeah, so we're talking about increasing token balances in the future for the person who is giving the excellent service quality, excellent service.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I like it. I think this is a good primer on crypto economics. Just for a quick time check, we are at 8:42, so we're 12 minutes over our endpoint. I don't want to just say let's wrap it up here and stop, but I'll give you the floor here. Is there any other topics or something you want to bring attention to before we kind of wrap things up? I would like to point out that you have never once mentioned the term social credit system in what I've read of your paper, and that was strictly an idea that I just had in my mind. I know people don't really like the idea of a social credit system, and I don't want anyone watching this to think that that's something that you're really forwarding. If I'm wrong, you can correct me there, but let's give you this time for your closing thoughts.
Social credit system. Credit is about the future value. The blockchain projects, most of them are based on the present and the past value. Present value is the value of money in the market based on the immediate transactions that are happening right now. That's the present value. And the past value is based on the idea of paying for goods created in the past. That's past value. When you go shopping, you buy something, then that thing you're paying for the value created in the past. The credit value is future value. Credit is about value that is not yet created, but you get money so that you can go and create that value. That's what's called credit. And the present financial system is based on credit. And that is somehow the credit problem. The problem with credit is that in order someone has to get what's called collateral. Credit comes with collateral. And collateral means that you have to have something to bring to the provider of credit in order for you to receive credit. And that system is extremely flawed, particularly in places where people do not have things to come and give. And of course, the things that we call collateral are based on what we have defined collateral to be, but they're not based on intrinsic creditworthiness of the human being. And so then there are certain things that are not collateralizable, particularly in the developing world, or what we call the third world country. Things like ideas are not collateralizable. Things like innovations are not collateralizable over there. And so you cannot use them to gain access to credit. But this community system of rewarding excellence can now displace that collateralization, that if somebody is doing good work, that work itself represents the value of that person. And that's why I have not talked about credit, because it's not really credit, it's excellence itself. Because credit assumes that this person is excellent in the future because of certain things that he has brought.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see the credit system in the United States, how it works. It actually can demolish a lot of people. And so it is that your own excellence is not creditworthy in the current credit system. And so can we find another way of recognizing that excellence that is besides the present world credit system? Although I've seen in the blockchain projects, people have created a credit-based system, which is known as borrowing. So you can borrow on credit. So for example, we build liquidity pools in Uniswap, and Uniswap is a decentralized protocol, a decentralized exchange, unlike the older versions of exchanges which were centralized. So Uniswap is decentralized, and that has automatic market making, meaning that ordinary individuals can create liquidity pools, and those liquidity pools is a pool of coins that can be borrowed from. And so somebody can borrow from that liquidity pool and then establish creditworthiness and of course pay. And it's very fascinating. There's a deep discussion that we can go into in another session about how liquidity pools work, automatic market making, and the credit itself, the credit system in the liquidity pools, because there. And that is that's now what you call a social credit, because it means that ordinary individuals who are not bankers themselves, they are not in the banking system, can actually loan money to each other on the blockchain system. And the blockchain is able to manage that type of borrowing. I give you an example in the Uniswap exchange, or in the decentralized exchanges, where people are able to borrow from each other, and they can use those coins to go and trade them in another exchange, make money, and come and pay back the money they borrowed in Uniswap. Just in sometimes it happens in one transaction. Yeah, so there's something that's very deep discussion. We can go into how that type of borrowing happens in Uniswap and other decentralized exchanges.
Yeah, I would enjoy a discussion about that. I think this is all very exciting. I think let's wrap up for today. But thank you for those closing thoughts there, and definitely want to explore those in a later conversation. But for my part, at least this morning, I'll just say thank you to you. Thank you to anyone who's watching. These conversations are, I think, valuable for the future of the world. I think you're implementing a valuable project here with the UBRICOIN project to address healthcare in Africa and potentially globally, starting in Africa, bringing people who are unbanked into the banking system, allowing people to use the value in their assets that are presently unrepresented, to get value for the goods and services that people produce. And with your dynamic way of looking at the world, thinking about the way people can imagine a better future, how people should be rewarded for doing things that further humanity. I really think that you're a good person to be at the front of this project that you're developing. So thank you again for allowing me to be part of these conversations, and a happy Saturday morning to you.
Happy Saturday morning to you. Thank you so much, Nick, and I appreciate that. So next week, maybe we can talk about DeFi, decentralized financing, which is what that idea of borrowing or lending on the decentralized network, on the blockchain. Yeah. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to DeFi. How does DeFi work, and of course UBRICOIN is on the DeFi system, and
awesome.
It's very, very powerful. Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you, and have a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you very much.